Hello everyone. So hope you're holding well with all the insanity that's going on in the world, and today I want to talk about some topic that will interest a lot of you that are moving to New Zealand, because I will talk basically the advantage of living in small towns in New Zealand compared to living in Auckland. And the bottom line is there are a lot more advantages living outside of Auckland than actually living in Auckland, and I'll explain why in this video, so stay tuned in. So let's start. Let's start with the positives of Auckland. So of course every place has advantages and disadvantages, but let's start with the advantages. I was living in Auckland for several years when I initially immigrated, and I thought, oh, I need to be in the big city, the more opportunities over there, and more job opportunities, and more people, and you know, all the usual myths that big city is the best. So I was doing that as everyone, and I had a period that I left Auckland to live for about a year, and the small town that I was living back then, I actually didn't feel quite good over there. So I came back to live in Auckland for another few years. But I gave another chance going outside of Auckland, because the negative parts of Auckland I just couldn't stay there any longer. I'll explain what are these negative parts. So let's start with the good things. So the place is very good for people who bought properties 2010 and beforehand, because after that was a major jump in the house prices. So all the people who had houses, their houses doubled in price. So it gave them lots of equity and a lot of financial gains. So, but for people who don't have houses in Auckland, well, and now it's like 2020, it will be one of the worst times to buy a first house in Auckland and take a mortgage for 30 years and repay it, because the price is hugely inflated, and the gains are getting the investors or people who bought the houses a long time ago. So definitely not worth it. Don't buy a house in Auckland, especially not now. Business opportunities in Auckland, also a lot of business events, all the major people who want to come to New Zealand and show their professional development and offer their business opportunities, this is the place to do it. So you won't do it in small town, and of course Auckland is the center for that. So you have plenty of events in this side, and if you want to grow your business and investment skills, Auckland is quite good. There is an airport, major international airport in Auckland, that you can get to small places in New Zealand from there or overseas. So that's of course an advantage. Auckland has also diversity, so lots of migrants like myself in the beginning came to Auckland and stay. So there is Indian community, Jewish community, Russian community, Chinese community, Kiwi communities, Australian communities, and Spanish, all these things. So you have big diversity of people over there, and some people are migrants, some people are not migrants, and therefore some people it can be interesting. And the advantages of that, it's like, if you want to experience different restaurants, if you want to experience different food places, that Like for example, you want Indian shops and that only have Indian products over there, so you can find that. But like in other small cities, you can't find Indian products unless you can order everything online. But let's talk about solutions for in some other time. And what else? So in Auckland also has balanced climate. It's not getting below zero in winter, and quite rarely it gets lower than 4 degrees at night time. Therefore, I must say in Auckland during the year the weather is quite alright, and yeah, it will be kind of good for you. So not lots of rains and not a lot of droughts. I think it's kind of balanced. It's a lot balanced. So I must say I'm quite happy with the weather I had in Auckland. So also I must say Auckland is quite a beautiful place. Well, almost all New Zealand is beautiful, but Auckland has, you know, all the mountains like Mount Eden, Mount Wellington. It's kind of nice and has nice beaches. So of course, also has like the west coast of like 30-40 minutes drive from central Auckland. Like very nice beaches like Piha, Kati, all that area. It's really nice. So if you want like really good beaches and walks, there. And also in the city itself, you have like in the middle of city some walks and nice parks, and I must say it's really nice things. So Auckland is quite good with that. Also Auckland has very good rubbish services, I must say, rubbish collection, rubbish services. So I'm quite pleased with that. That other cities or towns in New Zealand sometimes have limited services for rubbish. And you can kind of find how you need to get rid of your rubbish, but that's one of the things that Auckland is quite good. This is like the main good things I can think of after living in Auckland for several years. And also like there is a variety of jobs in Auckland. Actually you have a big variety, but also I must mention that there is also high competition for these jobs, so that's why it's hard for me to say that big variety of jobs in Auckland it's advantage. So it kind of goes maybe in between. So let's go to the bad stuff. Why I don't recommend to live in Auckland for long term, especially starting now 2020. So public transport. So Auckland has really bad public transport. So actually you have like buses, but a lot of the buses, like if they go from the south, west and north, they are going to the city center, and then there is no direct buses. Let's say if you want to go from the west to east, there are almost no direct buses, but if there is some bus, it goes very rarely, and it's almost impossible for you to get directly to the place you want to get. So and also the buses are late very often. They sometimes don't stop you. And also there is a train in Auckland, but the train goes only to specific stops, and most Auckland is actually without public transport. And you know what that means. If you have like 1.6 million people in Auckland area, plus all the people who are going through, so you know what does it mean. And it means lots of traffic jams. And who likes traffic jams? So the traffic in Auckland is quite bad, especially between 6 AM till 9:30 in the morning. It's very jammed, so it will take a long time to get anywhere in Auckland, especially in the motorways, very kind of limited. And after from about 3:30 till 7 a.m. 7 p.m. at night. Also, it's very jammed, and you will waste lots of time going anywhere in Auckland if you're not kind of living in a place where your work is 2 meters from you and you have all the services that you need. So massive disadvantage to Auckland, and it's getting worse and worse. I remember when I just got to Auckland 2016, it was like to live long term. About 6 p.m. so the western motorway in Auckland to to the Te Ata South and to the peninsula, it was quite available, but now it goes to 7 p.m. so traffic jams. Another disadvantage is like shortage of good, healthy and affordable housing. So when you'll come to Auckland, you will see lots of wooden boxes that are 70 years old, and the condition of the boxes is not really good. A lot of houses are damp, a lot of houses are cold, and lots of houses like very old and not in good condition, and the rents are quite high. And even like not only the rents, like even to buy a house, the prices are so high. So to buy a house for someone, like compared to salaries, it's a problem for a lot of immigrants who don't have any savings, or unless people want to get in a 30 years mortgage and pay 60% of the salary on mortgage. But and also the house quality won't be so good most of the time. And for rent, if you find really good property to rent, it will be first of all expensive, and you'll have competition of another 30 or 40 other applicants that kind of have good jobs and kind of good applicants. So what are the chances you'll get the place? And it's a big problem. And people who kind of flatmate like a room or something, you have no protection in the law. Landlords can do whatever. They can take a bond and not to give you back, and there is lots of issues with that. So the housing, it's a big issue today. Massive shortage of good affordable housing compared to salaries. So in Auckland there is a lot of 5G cellular antennas, and let's not get into discussions good for your health, not good for your health. From my point of view, it's something that I don't want to live near antennas. I want to live near trees and nature. So that's something that I really appreciate. Therefore, I don't like this 5G towers, and I see it as a major disadvantage. And as you know, what's happening next with surveillance cameras and all the other things, 5G is part of it, and it's a big no-no. And you have like now the 5G antennas everywhere in Auckland, and also they're taking down more and more trees in favor of these antennas. Also, I see in Auckland there is too much police, a lot of police that kind of looking after the traffic. You have a lot of police activity, and on one hand people think, oh, police is good, it's safe, but there is a good reason why there is so much police and why there is so much police activity. And that comes to the next part, that the safety issue. Auckland is not safe. But beforehand, let's talk about the police activity. So because now we are in a world crisis of COVID, it's not a health crisis, it's actually psychological and freedom of human rights crisis. Therefore, the more police you have, the less freedom and safety you will have in that place, because the police will enforce the law, and if the law is against civilized citizens, it's against you. So if I'm a person who loves freedom and I'm a person who contributes to society, not taken from society, not committing any crimes or disturbing anyone, so I don't want to be in the place that restrict my freedom and the basic human rights. Therefore, I won't want to live in a place like Auckland. Very simple. And now, because of the COVID changes, things becoming worse and worse and worse. And Auckland will be the major city that will have human rights taken away and it will be enforced by the police. Therefore, Auckland is not a place that I will recommend to live. And let's talk also about safety, that Auckland is not a safe place because you have big accumulation of people who are committing crimes. And also in the beginning I was thinking New Zealand is a very safe place, beautiful safe place and calm. Well, there are some places in New Zealand that are calm and beautiful, but because of different reasons some changes happen, financial situation in New Zealand changed, big gaps between the rich and the poor, and basically capitalism that happened in a lot of countries got here as well, and it's created a lot of divide between the rich and the poor, and also its safety. So you have a lot of that you have in Auckland. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she was walking in a place called the Auckland Domain. It's a very beautiful central park. And what happened is that she was walking at evening time, about start beginning of the evening, 6-7 o'clock, and she was robbed. She was robbed walking in the park, and I said, no way, that happened in New Zealand, no way. And several years later, I must say that I had my own trauma of brutal robbery when I almost not died, and it happened in Grey Lane, central area in Auckland, during daytime in a public place. And I was in shock, and of course it was part of the same people that have high chance that will commit crime, and there are people like that. So if you know who not to deal with, and that's of course another conversation, so you will be a lot more safe. Anyway, Auckland is not a safe place. If you want to kind of let your children run away outside and things like that, Auckland is not that place anymore. In Auckland you need to lock the doors. So a lot of robberies and theft and car accidents and all the other things. Yes, Auckland is safe. No, not anymore, unfortunately. So because Auckland is a big city, it will take you long time to get anywhere. Not only because of the traffic, but also because of the distances. And you need to drive and drive and drive and drive. But and of course you can use bicycles. So bicycles, you have some bicycle motorways that are quite good, for example from the west Auckland till the city center. but most of the city is not built for bicycles. But still, because of the distances, you have a lot of time to spend on moving around. And that's a disadvantage for me because it takes time. So regarding jobs, you have big competitions over the jobs. So any place you want to apply, maybe you have opportunities, but also you have a lot of other people that want to compete for the same position. Therefore, your chance getting the job is a lot lower than a lot of smaller cities that I know in New Zealand. So that's I see as the disadvantage. Especially if you are a migrant and you have a specific job that you compete with locals, so it will be a bit an issue. So, and I don't want that. Also, for your immigration, you're getting 30 points less if you're applying for a job in Auckland and you want skilled migrant category, getting residency for that. So, therefore, Auckland has a minus 30 points disadvantage. Rest of New Zealand, even if it's like other big city or doesn't matter, it will be 30 points plus. Another thing I want to say, people are, and this is completely my experience, my opinion, people are less open and friendly to have a deep connections with. So in Auckland you have a lot of groups, like Kiwis hang out with Kiwis, Indians with Indians, Chinese with Chinese, and all these circles are really hard to break. Like if you're a new person and want to find friends, it will be really hard for you to get new connections. Of course, you can kind of be a part of the New Zealand culture. So what is a New Zealand culture? So you need to go to bars and drink alcohol, and you need to watch rugby or cricket and talk about I don't know, the news or sports or but what of people who doesn't care about all this? So of course you have spiritual groups, you have like different groups that have same, like, you know, like music or dancing, for example. But still, you as an immigrant here and not a Kiwi, it will be really hard for you to form deep connections. Even in the workplace, you have like mates over there, it was still hard to form deep connection and friendship. So the sense of loneliness that you will feel in Auckland will be quite high compared to small cities, and I'll get into that later. So that's some of my main points about Auckland. So let's talk about small cities. So you want to hear about small cities? Let's talk about small cities. Okay, so what I want to mention about small cities, that about the wage. So small cities, if you're in the right position, you will have higher salary and a lot better terms of employment. And how is that possible? I thought in Auckland it will be, but it's possible because in some cities there are some stigma. For example, in Eilat in Israel, you go into, because it's like far away place and a small, so people don't really want to go there. But if you go to study at university there, you'll have amazing scholarships and amazing comfort of studying, and like you know, almost one-to-one approach from the tutors and stuff like that you won't get in a big university in Beersheba. Same thing is here. So here you can have really good terms of employment, lots of flexibility, and a lot higher salary that you will have in Auckland, yeah? And that's a fact. I just give you an example. I received even accommodation part of my contract, and I'm just doing, you know, some temporary contracts. I received accommodation, and in Auckland almost there is no way I will receive accommodation. It's not like I'm you know, pilot or something like that, yeah? But still, receive accommodation, and you can negotiate even better terms of employment. And the things, and that's the reason, because people kind of don't know about these places, living in their stigmas that big cities are the best. They don't want to come here, therefore it's hard for some of these places to attract professional staff. But this is your advantage as an immigrant. Go to the places that well, this is a nice house. Go to these places that other people don't want to go, and then you will have disadvantages as well. Okay, so this is about the wages. So another thing, of course, it's like a lot less competition. So if in Auckland you, for one normal position, you have like 40, 50, and now during COVID, something 200 candidates. In small cities, you have maybe 1 or 2 free candidates. So you have chances to get the role. Some roles are staying open for a long time. And I must tell you that sometimes positions stay open for months and months and months and months and months until they get filled. So recruitment will be one of the major issues in these towns, but massive advantage for you as an immigrant that just want to start, save money, and getting part of the culture. And when you get into these jobs, you will have like really good training and orientation, and there will be a lot of time for you, and you'll be respected and treated a lot better as a kind of a treasure. While in Auckland, to replace you will be really easy. So this is like major disadvantage for Auckland, but major advantage for small towns. So also in small towns, when you have like less than 10,000 people, you can just walk everywhere. You don't need even public transport. And if you want a car, you can use the car, but it's a very small place. So see, like I'm walking everywhere. I'm almost not using the car. Don't need to. Why? So this is one of the things, and it saves you a lot of time to get anywhere you need. Another thing is it's affordable housing. So I'll just give you a few examples. So you can have the same house, the same build, the same quality that you have in Auckland for the price 10 times less than you will have in Auckland. 10 times less. And think about it, that you have like the same salary, the same wage, or even higher wage in Auckland, and you going to buy a house then 10 times less. Imagine that you're spending $60,000, and that's a real deals that I actually seen in these places that you almost never will have in Auckland. Never. In Auckland the prices are very expensive. It's like $500,000 plus at least if you're a first home buyer, and here you can buy houses $60,000 deals, $100,000 New Zealand deals. It's insane. Of course it won't be advertised anywhere. So affordable housing. So another thing I must say, sometimes it will be a bit harder to rent in these places, but definitely if you want to settle and buy a house, it will be a lot easier and cheaper than Auckland. Another thing, people are a lot more open and friendly over here. So people will pay attention to you, they will kind of ask where you're from, and will be really excited about to see a new face, and will be really interested and open to build new connections. Something that in Auckland a lot less, but here like it's a kind of something that you sense quite much, and it's really nice because you noticed. So it's kind of decrease the sense of loneliness to a lot of people, and it's a lot easier to make deep and good connections with people here if you're a friendly person, of course. But if you don't want to socialize, that's good as well. So this is a kind of advantage. Also, small towns are a lot safer. So for example here, I just say that it's a west coast of South Island in New Zealand, and all the video that I'm talking about, it's about living in the South Island, small towns of the South Island of New Zealand, not the North Island. And there is a big difference between the cities, small cities over there and here, but that's for other video. I'm talking only about small towns in New Zealand South Island. Anyway, it's a lot safer. So for example, in this town you have a court that operating once a month. That's because you don't really have a lot of court cases over here. And this place is also a lot safer, so people still are not really locking their doors, and a lot of kind of reports of thefts, robbery, crimes and all these things. So that's a massive advantage. So here you can grow your children in a lot safer environment, less populated environment, lot of space. So that's massive advantage if you keen on that. Also regards COVID, you will have here a lot less COVID restrictions because there will be no cases over here, and people who have jobs also like the advantage living in such place because everything will be a lot more cheaper. You have a lot less police. So I see that as an advantage because less crime, less police, less taking away basic human rights, and I see that as an advantage. So, but also I must say that even if you there is police, the police here are a lot more friendly, and you can. If I'm working in a also some government social services, it's a lot nicer to have deeper connections with the police. So, but in Auckland, you can do it the same, but it's a lot busier, it's kind of a lot more intense over there. So sometimes it won't happen as much as it happens in small cities, small towns. So no 5G towers. So we discussed about 5G before. I want to live in a place that has less 5G towers. And of course you have 30 points more on skilled migrant category if you want to immigrate. So what are the disadvantages of living in small towns? And there are disadvantages. So one of them is a shortage of services. So for example, you won't have 5 barbers, you will have maybe 1 or 2 barbers. And if you need hospital, there is a hospital here, but probably for more intense procedures you will need to go to a bigger hospital and drive a few hours to the hospital or whatever. Also there are not enough specific restaurants. And if you want variety restaurants, you won't have a lot over here. You'll still have, but not a lot. And also the same dentists, probably dentists and stuff like that will cost a lot more because there is only one, or maybe there is none. So definitely lack of services. But of course, if you need services like that, you need to drive just a few hours or take a flight. That also can be a bit expensive, but not really. And then you can have all the services you need. So it kind of required preparation, but it's up to you to think if the advantages of place like that is worthwhile, worth it or not. So the airport, there are some small towns with airports, and the airport is usually expensive and local, like I said before. Also in the South Island, the climate is a bit colder. So, of course, Auckland is a lot warmer climate. And in the South Island, the small towns, it will be a lot colder. Some places more colder, some places less colder. But still, it's something that you can kind of choose. But I don't see it as a major disadvantage. Another thing is lack of information online about the small cities. Yeah, what I'm telling you now, that it's information that almost not existed online, but it will be quite hard for you to know and sense how is it to live in small towns in New Zealand. So, for example, for Auckland and Wellington, you can read a lot, and there's plenty of information, a lot of people to find. But in the towns that are small and have disadvantages that I described, of course, people don't really want to tell you, "Oh, this is the place," so that everybody will come and do whatever. Yeah. So there are reasons for that, and it's a matter of just going there and taking a risk, but it's worthwhile. Or you can just consult with me and I can just guide you where to go. But this is one of the ways. Sometimes in small towns you have a little bit less better like, you know, infrastructure. So sometimes the roads or like, you know, the streets are not really well maintained, but most of New Zealand places I can say that they're quite good, kind of same to Auckland or less. So that's, I must say that it's kind of same thing. So yeah, and this is the main things I wanted to talk to you about. So the bottom line is I left Auckland after living there several years, and I'm not regret about it. I'm completely happy about it. And for immigrant, I totally recommend to go to Auckland and initially and get what you need. So it depends on the situation. Get, like, for example, some work experience, some volunteering experience, get opportunities that you need to just get you started. And when you already are resident, move out, because in Auckland you will waste a lot of money on expenses and won't save as much as you can save money and have, you know, freedom of choice regards accommodation and where to put your money to. So I really recommend that. So this is the bottom line. The bottom line: get out of Auckland and migrate to small New Zealand towns in the South Island. Thank you very much.